Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the English Success Podcast. I'm John, and as always, it's a pleasure to have you join us as we explore new ways to enhance your English language skills.
And I'm Sarah. We're excited to be here with you today, bringing you another important topic that will assist you on your language learning journey. We're glad you're here with us today.
In our last episode, we delved into overcoming pronunciation difficulties, a topic that's crucial for anyone looking to communicate effectively in English. We discussed common pronunciation challenges, provided practical tips, and even shared exercises to help you improve. If you missed that episode, I strongly recommend going back to listen to it because mastering pronunciation is key to being understood clearly.
Absolutely, John. Pronunciation is such an integral part of speaking English fluently. Today we're going to shift our focus slightly but stay within the realm of spoken English. Our topic for today is using intonation and stress to convey meaning in English. This might sound like a subtle aspect of language learning, but it's actually one of the most powerful tools you can use to communicate effectively.
That's right, Sarah. Intonation and stress play a significant role in how your message is perceived. Whether you're asking a question, making a statement, or trying to emphasize a particular point, the way you use your voice can completely change the meaning of what you're saying. It can even alter the emotional tone of your speech.
So, in today's episode, we'll be diving deep into the world of intonation and stress. We'll explain what they are, why they're important, and how you can use them to your advantage in everyday conversations. We'll also provide you with practical exercises and tips that you can start using right away to improve this aspect of your spoken English.
1. Understanding intonation and stress. Let's start by defining what we mean by intonation and stress. Intonation refers to the rise and fall of your voice as you speak. It's what gives your speech its melody or musical quality. For example, in English, when we ask a yes/no question, our intonation usually rises at the end. Are you coming? On the other hand, when we make a statement, our intonation typically falls, I'm going home.
Stress, on the other hand, refers to the emphasis you place on certain syllables or words in a sentence. In English, some syllables are stressed more than others, and this stress can change the meaning of a word or sentence. For instance, consider the word record. If you stress the first syllable, it's a noun, as in a vinyl record. But if you stress the second syllable, it's a verb, as in to record a video.
That's a great example, Sarah. It shows just how important stress is in conveying the correct meaning. In longer sentences, stress helps the listener understand which words are most important. For example, in the sentence, I didn't say he stole the money, the meaning changes depending on which word you stress.
Exactly, John. If you stress I, it implies that someone else said it. If you stress didn't, it means you're denying having said it. Each variation gives a different nuance to the sentence. This is why mastering stress and intonation is so important. It allows you to express yourself more precisely and avoid misunderstandings.
2. Why intonation and stress. Now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about why intonation and stress matter so much in English. First and foremost, they affect how well you're understood by others. English is a stress-timed language, which means that the rhythm of the language is largely determined by the stressed syllables. If you misplace the stress or use the wrong intonation, it can make your speech sound unnatural or even confusing to native speakers.
That's a good point, John. Intonation and stress also play a key role in conveying emotion and attitude. The way you say something can often be just as important as the words you choose. For example, if you say I'm fine with a flat, monotonous intonation, It might suggest that you're not actually fine, even though the words themselves are positive. On the other hand, if you say it with a cheerful tone, it reinforces the positive message.
Another reason why intonation and stress are important is that they help structure information. In spoken English, we don't have punctuation marks to guide us, so we rely on intonation and stress to indicate pauses, emphasize certain points, and guide the listener through our speech. This is particularly important in more formal or complex conversations, where clear communication is crucial.
That's so true, John. Intonation can signal whether you're finished speaking or if you have more to say. For example, a rising intonation at the end of a sentence can indicate that you're about to continue, while a falling intonation can signal that you've finished your thought. This helps the listener follow along and engage more effectively in the conversation.
3. Practical tips for mastering intonation and stress. So, how can you improve your intonation and stress? One of the best ways is to listen to native speakers as much as possible. Pay close attention to the way they use their voice when asking questions, making statements, or emphasizing certain points. You can do this by watching movies, listening to podcasts, or engaging in conversations with native speakers.
Another great technique is to practice with recordings. Try recording yourself reading a passage or having a conversation, and then listen back to see where you might be placing stress or intonation incorrectly. You can also compare your recording to that of a native speaker and try to mimic their patterns.
Shadowing is another effective exercise. This involves listening to a native speaker and then immediately repeating what they say, trying to match their intonation and stress as closely as possible. This not only helps you improve your pronunciation, but also gets you accustomed to the natural rhythm and melody of English.
And don't forget about using visual aids. There are plenty of online resources that can help you visualize intonation patterns and stress placement. For example, some apps and websites offer intonation diagrams that show you how your voice should rise and fall in different types of sentences. These tools can be incredibly helpful in mastering the subtleties of spoken English.
It's also important to practice varying your intonation and stress in different contexts. Try reading a sentence in different ways, stressing different words or using different intonation patterns, and see how the meaning changes. This will help you become more flexible in your speech and more aware of how your voice can influence your message.
4. Exercises to practice intonation and stress. Let's move on to some specific exercises you can do to practice intonation and stress. One exercise is to take a simple sentence and stress different words each time you say it. For example, take the sentence, "She didn't invite me to the party." You can say it with stress on she, didn't, invite, me, or party, and each time the meaning will shift slightly. This will help you become more conscious of how stress changes meaning.
Another exercise is to practice questions versus statements. Write down a few yes/no questions and corresponding statements, and practice saying them with the correct intonation. For example, "Are you coming?" should have a rising intonation, while "You're coming" should have a falling intonation. Repeat these until the intonation feels natural.
A great way to practice intonation is by using nursery rhymes or songs. These often have exaggerated intonation patterns, which can make them easier to follow and mimic. Plus, they're fun to practice with. Try singing along to a song or reciting a rhyme, paying close attention to how the intonation changes throughout.
Another useful exercise is to practice chunking. This involves breaking up sentences into smaller chunks and practicing the intonation within each chunk. For example, instead of saying, "I went to the store and bought some milk," break it into chunks. "I went to the store and bought some milk." Practice saying each chunk with natural intonation, Then put it all together.
Finally, try practicing with a language partner or tutor. Have them read sentences with different intonation patterns and see if you can identify the intended meaning. Then, switch roles and practice using intonation and stress yourself, while they give you feedback.
As with any aspect of language learning, feedback is crucial when it comes to improving your intonation and stress. Whether you're working with a language partner, a tutor, or using an app that provides feedback, it's important to get outside input on how you're doing. This will help you identify areas where you might need to improve and ensure that you're on the right track.
And remember, mastering intonation and stress takes time and persistence. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't come naturally at first. Keep practicing, and over time, you'll start to notice improvements in your ability to convey meaning clearly and effectively.
It's also important to remember that the goal isn't perfection, but effective communication. Focus on making progress and being understood, rather than achieving flawless intonation and stress.
Absolutely. With practice and dedication, you'll find that your intonation and stress become more natural and intuitive. And that, in turn, will make your spoken English even more effective and engaging.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. We hope you found these insights and tips on intonation and stress useful. As always, thank you for joining us.
If you have any questions or feedback, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And be sure to tune in next time for more valuable tips on improving your English skills.
Until then, keep practicing, stay motivated, and keep striving for success. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.